Hey guys, Big Weir, roadtoroot.com, coming to you from the car. I actually just went to the doctor. My shoulder's been killing me. So I had some x-rays. I don't know what it is. Old age. Creeping up. I feel great. I'm in great health. The shoulder thing is probably from sports when I was younger. And then a little weightlifting here and there. And it's kind of been deteriorating. So we'll find out what's going on. Or as my buddy Christoph will say, I'm carrying the weight of the world on my shoulders, so I'm going to have shoulder problems. I'm just saying. That's what he said. Something to that effect. I like to take on other people's issues and problems and try to fix them. I'm a fixer. And sometimes that takes your toll. Takes a toll on the body, not only the mind. But anyway, speaking of taking the world on his shoulders, Charlie Lee. The FUD's dying down. Everybody's pretty much conceding that, yeah, it was just FUD about all the, there's no programming going on on Litecoin. And Charlie's like, yeah, the foundation and Charlie were spending all their time doing mass adoption. I agree, and that's where his focus should be. But people are saying, well, what about Mimblewimble and confidential transactions? Yeah, those would be great at some point. We do not want them right now. Read my lips. Do not implement Mimblewimble or confidential transactions right now. You hear that, Foundation? You hear that, Charlie? Do not implement those things yet. There will be a time. There's a time and a place for everything in cryptos. Right now, we're heading up to the road to root transition, which means the death of the old system. And it was the perfect thing to chase after all the adoption and spreading awareness. Absolutely. Why? Because we're going to have a choice to make coming up. Do we bail out the banks again, or do we try something else? And with mass adoption, bravo to what Charlie and the Foundation have done over the last year or so. Bravo. With all their endorsements, all the people, the community. Bravo to us, too. The Litecoin community. That's what it needs. Why mass adoption? Because when the use case is necessary, it's all about understanding that Litecoin is the means of exchange we can use and not bail out the banks. So important. It is not important. Actually, it is not even desired to have confidential transactions right now in Litecoin. Why? A very simple reason. The regulators haven't figured out who they're going to beat up and who they're not going to beat up. They know they have to beat up some crypto companies, some crypto things, because that's what regulators do. They make examples of people and then they move on. If Litecoin went to confidential transactions, Mimblewimble, today, they will be on the hot seat as, oh my God, Litecoin is hiding all transactions for everybody because drug dealers and money launderers are going to use it. We do not want confidential transactions yet. But when the banks collapse, we move on to another thing. Litecoin's positioned perfectly. The government will acknowledge that, yes, cryptos are the best choice we have moving forward because these banksters are all going to jail for their criminal acts. That is when you want to, after that is recognition happens, and after the regulators make some examples of some crypto companies and tokens, that is when you want to implement confidential transactions, because they are important to be used in a peer-to-peer cash system. You just don't want to do it before the regulators have said their piece. I hope this makes sense. So bravo to Charlie. You were right again. 5 steps ahead of everybody, as you are every time. And the Foundation, the email exchange back and forth with the guy in the Foundation, not everybody in the Foundation is on the same level as Charlie. Not everybody understands what's going on with cryptocurrencies. Not everybody. The guy who was talking, I've heard him speak. The guy who was emailing back and forth with Charlie. He is 100% definitely on the investor side. He doesn't get the bigger picture at all. I hope he does by now. He's still part of the foundation. And I would love to have a little sit down and chat with him about the importance of adoption, the importance of Litecoin, not in price. It's not about price. It's about having a means of exchange when it is most desperately needed. When the bankers come to Congress and say, hey, by the way, you know all this chaos going on down right now? We need a bailout. And oh, by the way, also, I'm a too big to fail bank. And yes, my CEO is in jail now for rigging the silver market, but still bail us out because you have no choice. That's what happened in 2008, other than the CEO in jail part. And we cannot have that again. We need Litecoin to be ready as a means of exchange. If it is locked up in privacy, it will not be allowed by the regulators to be a means of exchange right off the bat. That's got to happen later. I think Charlie knew this. I think Charlie's been in on it all along. I love him. I love him. I did an interview with him, and that's the stuff we talked about. Go listen to that interview. And I asked him, point blank, during that interview, I said, if the bankers crash, if we have another 2008 moment, will Litecoin be ready? He said, yes, Litecoin will be ready. He didn't say Litecoin will be ready with confidential transactions. That comes later. We cannot have the regulators saying, no, we can't use Litecoin as a cryptocurrency because it has confidential transactions. We need to see what's going on. We have to be well aware of what's happening at the beginning of this transition. Can you hear him saying that? So bravo, Charlie, again. Strike. He's like the pitcher who's in the last inning of throwing a perfect game, and he's just throwing speedballs past everybody, and all the fudsters and all the people who want to take down Litecoin are just swinging and missing. They swing and miss, and they declare a home run, and they declare Litecoin is dead. Nice try, my friends. Luckily, Charlie's 500 steps ahead of you. And I don't think Charlie's working alone. I think he's working with the good guys behind the scenes. All part of the transition on the road to Ruta. This is all planned out. They have a day. They have a time when the chaos will hit. I have my guess, full-on guess as to when that is. And I've talked about that on the private road and on my Patreon channel. But yeah, it's set in stone, shall we say. And yes, it aligns with the stars and all the numerology and all that. Absolutely. Because that's what the bad guys like to do. Those in charge of the system. So that is my take. That is my official take on the emails back and forth between Charlie and another guy at the Litecoin Foundation. Why Charlie is, he has been slow walking Mimblewimble. Why? Because of what I just said. We cannot have confidential transactions in Litecoin before the transition. That has to come later. And it will come because it is so important to have confidential transactions if you're using something as money. And anyway, there's only a couple of cryptocurrencies that have confidential transactions, and they are targets. Monero is a target of the regulators and the feds. We don't want to be a target. Come on, people. Let's think about it. But after the transition, when it's already decided that Litecoin is going to be used as a replacement for fiat money, one of the many things that will be used, yes, that's when you bring in Mimblewimble. That's when you bring in the confidential transactions so that Litecoin can service humanity just like cash does today. Untraceable type of thing. And it shouldn't be traceable. We shouldn't have the government in on our business. But that will come. There's a time and a place, and Charlie's so brilliant. He figured it out long before, and he can't say anything like that, of course. Can't say anything like that publicly, or everybody's going to say, oh my God, or the regulators say, oh my God, you're going to implement confidential transactions. We're not going to let you be a means of exchange. So there you go. That's the road to Ruta take. And the road to Ruta take is taking into account my 20 years of research of this in gold and silver and the transition. I was talking about this long before cryptos came around. I was talking about the good guys, the people behind Q and all that back in 2007 when I discovered the Road to Ruta documents from the Federal Reserve Bank of Boston, where they talk about the big people who are stepping on the little people, and Ruta says, I can take them out. And Ruta is still trying, although Ruta is very old now. If you know my theories on Alan Greenspan, you'll know what I'm talking about. Yes, anybody who says, Vix doesn't know what you're talking about Greenspan. Name one more person in our community that proved that Alan Greenspan was an expert computer programmer in the 1960s, 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s, 2010s. Who's got more experience that is alive today than Alan Greenspan in programming computers? Nobody. Who is at the highest level of government to implement any kind of monetary changes? Alan Greenspan. Who is the biggest gold bug in modern history? Alan Greenspan. Read his gold paper on gold and economic sovereignty. What's it called? It's not economic sovereignty. Gold and economic freedom, I think it's called. Read it. He wrote it in the 60s. And then all of a sudden, voila, he got put as head of the CEA, Council of Economic Advisors, secretly implementing his computer programs back in the late 60s, early 70s. With his mentor, a guy named Arthur Burns, who just happened to be the head of the Federal Reserve System, the same system that wrote the goddamn Road to Ruta comic books. Do I have to explain this further? So yes, Litecoin, what's going on with Charlie, absolutely fits in perfectly with the Road to Ruta theory. So hang on tight, my friends. It is good. It is good that Mimblewimble is being slow-walked. I think it's ready to go in the background, but it'll be pulled out when it is necessary. After the transition is in full swing. After it is allowed that we can use Litecoin as a means of exchange that won't be taxed. And there are bills in Congress already ready to go. This is not a secret. It just takes a little investigative work. So those bashers of Litecoin, we're going to get the last laugh, which is good. So here's your quiz. What is the number one use case for cryptocurrencies? Out of all of them, out of all cryptocurrencies, what is the most useful thing? What is it that why did Satoshi make Bitcoin? As a peer-to-peer cash system, ultimately, Litecoin most fits that bill out of any other cryptocurrency. And we will see that be rolled out when it is time. And I think that time is very close. I got a close eye on Europe. I don't even watch Deutsche Bank anymore because I know if Europe goes, Deutsche Bank will be a nuclear bomb within a nuclear bomb. So keep an eye on Europe. They are struggling already. Brexit is coming, and the banks are failing, and China is already bailing out a lot of their own banks. It is all happening, my friends. So hang on to your Litecoin and hang on to your silver. We got a lot of excitement coming down the road between now and the end of the year. I am off in 2 days, or 3 days. I am off to St. Louis to hang out with some freedom fighters, some Litecoin freedom fighters. There's a lot of Litecoin people going to St. Louis. I don't know if the XRP guys are going because they've been trying to spread FUD about Litecoin. You don't do that around Bitcoin Ben. He'll take your head off. Verbally and maybe physically if you show up. No, show up. Come on. I'd love to debate any XRP guy that's there. Which is the best means of exchange? XRP is great if the banks are going to stay in business. They're going to stay in business. Yes, XRP is your solution, bankers. If they're not going to stay in business, XRP is not going to be staying in business either. They're gone. That's why I don't like XRP. When the banks go, there's no reason for XRP. It's the banker's solution. So, yeah, I don't like XRP. But, hey, and they got loud mouths, the supporters, and their bots and all that. They had tried to attack Road to Ruta. I had to delete like 50 XRP people off Road to Ruta. And I still do. So, that's just a pain in the ass. This is BigSquareRoadToRuta.com coming to you live from Oakland, California. a bastion of crazy liberals, but I'm surviving here. I'm the beacon of hope in a crazy town. I don't want to talk about it. But in 10 months, I'll be moving. Don't know where yet. That's what this job affords me, the ability to live wherever I want. And my kids will all be going out of the house, and I got one in Europe. I got one who's probably going like to New York or Vegas or something. And we got one in San Diego. So I don't know where we're going to end up. Maybe just hit the road, me and Amy. Me and Amy on the road going town to town. We just did that for 2 weeks. Had a blast. Maybe make it a lifestyle for a little bit. We got a lot of friends out there. Yeah, if you want the Freedom Road Trip to come to your town, send me an email and tell me what you can do. All we need is a place to play and a bunch of people to talk about cryptos and to sing to. And talk about health and vitality. I'm going to get Amy up there on stage and explain to all of us how important it is to maintain your health and vitality through this transition out of the old system and into the new. Into the new. BigSquareRoadTour.com. Talk to you later.